Welcome back, Patriot Pals. Thank you for joining the Mel K Show. I have been trying for a very long time to get this man who's on with me today to come on the show because I have not missed one of his shows in 4 years. This is my go-to guy. I watch Bernie at Truth in Our TV every night. And if anyone can put together the dots from the 40,000-foot view, it is Bernie Suarez from Truth in Our TV. Thank you for joining me, Bernie.
Mel, thank you for those kind words. God bless you, and good morning to good afternoon to your audience.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have to say, the best part about you is you have a background in so many things that when you're explaining something, it's coming from all angles. And for my audience that does not know you, even though I talk about Bernie a lot, this is the Bernie I'm talking about. Can you please tell a little bit about who you are and how you ended up being on the front lines of this battle between good and evil, for God and country?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of my background. I am from a family where my dad was growing up. When my dad was a pastor of a church, and all of us went to church, and we were taught good, the difference between good and evil from the very beginning, right from wrong. So I come from a very conservative background. So that's important for people to understand. I, like many people, however, as I got older, I got lured away from conservative values. And it all started. I joined the Marine Corps at the age of 18. I wanted to make a change in the world from an early age. Everyone told me that I was this guy who was always asking questions. And people even referred to me as the logic guy. They made fun of me, like Spock from, what is it? Star Trek, right? So I was always asking questions. I always wanted to make a difference. And my ambitions after getting out of the Marine Corps was, I want to be, academia was the way to go. And we're seeing today the role of academia. So I explained people the conservative lifestyle, knowing right from wrong, versus the many, many years of academia, thinking that you know it all. So I pursued many years of education, including psychology and medicine.
Right. And
after 2 years in medicine, I walked away for various reasons. I explain it every once in a while, but for your sake of your audience, they should all need to know is that I did walk away. It's technical reasons, having to do with the licensing process many, many years ago. And from that point on, I kind of just started doing my own thing. And I stumbled into learning how to edit and producing. And that brings me all the way up to around 2008 when I ran into a film about 9/11 and was heartbroken that I didn't figure it out in real time. I always considered myself this critical thinker. And that's when the lights went on. That's right around 2008. And ever since then, I've been, I guess, fired up. I've written probably thousands of articles since then, analyzing and trying to figure it all out, trying to figure out the Bush years, the last couple of years, and then really unpacking the Obama years from the beginning. So I gave Obama a chance. I said, all right, what's it? And within the first 2 days, figured it all out. And before you know it, I joined different groups, trying to make a difference, and consider myself a researcher ever since. And the rest is history, right? Started Truth in Our TV back in 2012 to unpack all these different topics. And that's really it. I apply what I know about psychology and conservative values in Christianity. That's why I mentioned that I was born and raised in a Christian home. So I've taken all the different walks of life that I've been through, and then I apply them to what is happening now. And some people don't like that, but the truth will set you free.
Well, I look at you and the original Purge from YouTube gang as the arbiters of truth, because it's the original guys that got kicked off in October that was scaring the deep state to death and the puppet masters to death. And I've watched you go. The best part about you, and you say on your show a lot, that it is a psychology channel, because you really can cut through. I watch you every night because you don't follow every story. You find the story that actually matters, that connects the dots. And that is a true gift for sure of logic and reason. I wanted you to explain something because, I get a lot of people that say, well, why isn't this happening? Why isn't that happening? you bring up something often on your show called game theory. And I think that it's very important for people to understand what game theory is and how it fits into where we are right now. So can you elaborate a little bit on that for people that never even heard of that, and what your take on game theory and its relationship to where we are?
Okay, sure. But I think for the sake of your audience, let's finish up the movie, right?
Right.
Before we get into game theory. Doing all the things I did and having been in different organizations and an organizer in a particular organization where I watched the deep state operate, infiltrate these organizations. Then Trump comes down the escalators in 2015. And then I jump on board with the whole Trump thing. And then, as you're sort of alluding to, but just in case anyone is not aware, I was really one of the very original, from the beginning, channels covering Trump's back channel, the Q drops. So with that said, having been someone who was studying and researching this simple website,
Right.
which I tell people, do not take opinions or advice or anything from anyone who they themselves have not researched the Q drops for many, many, many times over. And I'll meet, like I said, I believe it was last night on my show, or last couple of days. At this point, we're at a point where if you now discover the Q drop and you're trying to retroactively figure it out, you're still not going to get what we were figuring out in real time, because there were many proofs that you had to be there at the time.
Yeah.
If Trump is on Air Force One and dropping a Q drop and you don't know that, the timing of it, how are you going to get that? So all that aside, given that I've been covering the Q drops from the beginning, now I'll take your question about the game theory, because the game theory relates to the Q drops.
Right.
So back to your question. Yeah, game theory, most people don't understand. And because they don't, many people erroneously believe that the Q drops were about predictions. No, they were never about predictions. There's a difference between somebody making a blind prediction versus an event that changes, the timing of it changes, the purpose of it changes, the tactic and the strategy changes in real time based on what the enemy is doing. And that is the thing most people don't understand. So game theory essentially is a model that predicts a behavior only in real time and only dependent on all other factors, which means by definition, you cannot predict what is going to happen per se. You can't, because you don't know what new factors are going to come into play.
Right. You remind people all the time, moves and counter moves. It's a, this is a live war. You also are one of the first people, and what people need to know that didn't follow the drops from the beginning is, because I listened to you every day back then, they were coming in rapid fire. It wasn't like they were here. For the people that are looking back now, if they can find them, because the original stuff is way gone, people don't realize that there was a time when it was like 5, 6, 7 a day. And then the next day you'd make sense of them, but they were just coming in rapid fire. In that beginning, when you started seeing that, what did you think at first? Did you right away realize that this is way bigger than just some kind of online, experiment? That it was like you were getting, because you were on top of it from the very beginning, and it was crazy in the beginning.
It was crazy in the beginning. I would even having someone who I think I've done I've literally have done a video program for every drop many times over. And I'll just say, I wish it was only 5 or 6 a day.
I remember there was
when
more.
they would drop 20, 30 drops in a day.
It was
but anyway, yeah, well, my approach to it, everything that I've ever done is about logic and reason, as opposed to probably the first 10 plus years, 10 or 12, 13 years of my search for answers. A lot of those years, it wasn't based on logic and reason. I was chasing whatever story I saw in my favorite alternative media platform. I considered it to be reasonably true. I reasoned in my mind, there's no reason why that person would lie to me. So I looked at whatever links they showed me and I accepted it. Whereas when the drops begin, I start focusing, I get it, because we were told from the beginning to rely on logic and reason. And that is probably the one single factor that influenced me the most, is this concept of logic and reason, where I started seeing how easy it is for someone else. I call it the alternative media, but it could be anyone that's popular. Anyone can put out anything, have a couple pieces of reasonable appearing evidence, and most of us would believe it.
Right.
But I no longer think that way after these drops. I really put everything through the logic tests. So, but to kind of answer your question, also, we were given irrefutable proofs, and timestamps were just one part of it. And I think, like I said earlier, experiencing the drops in real time allowed us to decipher between logical proof, irrefutable, mathematically improbable proofs, versus some hearsay or some sensational headline or some sensational claim that many, many people gravitate to.
Right.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Another thing that I agree with you on, and I've tried to explain to people, but I can't like you do. But what we've also seen over the last several years is some kind of hero worship of Edward Snowden. And because I watch you and I've looked into it and I saw what was happening, and then I watched Trump's reaction to him and other people. It's still happening, by the way, as you know. And I would like you to explain exactly what the Snowden story is and what really happened there, because I still feel like it's disinformation every time I see an interview with him. So I'm just curious what you think.
Well, as you know, if you follow, given that you follow my platform, that became a cornerstone for explaining to others the difference between verifiable news and real news, and patriot news versus alternative media news, or whatever sensational news is out there. And the Snowden story played a big role in helping me kind of step back and see as you call it, the 40,000-foot view of how information works. I noticed that in the Q drops, aside from Hillary and Obama and Trump himself, and I might be missing one other person or two, but really, other than a couple people, Snowden was mentioned more than anyone else. And I noticed that the Q team actually was directly trolling him with the at Snowden. So, which they didn't do with anyone else other than Jack Dorsey. And maybe they might have done it maybe once with Bill Gates. I don't think so. But really it was Snowden that they were trolling. And I thought that's interesting, because according to my knowledge base, all the years of Obama years, I was led to believe that Snowden is a hero somehow. Right. But then I started realizing, wait a minute, there is a pattern. There is a difference between someone who gets movies made out of him versus someone who gets completely terminated, shut down, and disappeared from the internet.
Like Aaron Swartz compared to Snowden.
And certain people that spoke about certain topics during the Obama years, we won't say those topics, right?
Right.
Those people that spoke about very specific topics were disappeared from the internet.
Right.
And so I said, wait a minute, something's happening here that no one is seeing. So the Snowden saga allowed me, I was able to, early on, I kind of saw it, and it was like, how can people not see this? And we're talking, again, anyone in the alternative. See, here's an issue, Mel K, that, and this is something I've said on my channel many times. I started realizing, only because of the Q drops, that there were, there's like people on the left that say they're pro-left, this and that. And then there's people on the right that are right-wing, conservative, whatever, right? Patriot. But then Trump comes down the escalator, and then I realize, wait a minute. You have these two groups, but then you have this other group that just think they are the truth.
I know.
These truthers,
right.
People. So it became, during the Obama years, I observed that if you were not following the right or left-wing media, then by default, you think that you are the truth. And it turns out the clowns in America They know that. So that creates a perfect platform to sell people on certain narratives because, hey, I don't believe the right or the left. I'm just the truth. And like I
Right.
said last night on my show, who else talks that way? Fauci.
Right.
What? You guys are wrong. I am science. Same
Oh,
type of
lunatic.
mindset. Now,
Right.
mind you, Mel, a lot of people that are upset at the right left paradigm, I get it. They mean well. They're looking for truth, but that's where the information war begins. The nature and the characteristic of the information war begins. Snowden is a great example to demonstrate the nature of the information war and how the alternative media is used by the CIA and those that control the narrative to lure people into these beliefs. So to this day, to answer your question, everyone is interesting that people that follow alternative media and other sources other than mainstream seem to agree with others on the left and maybe on the right even that Snowden is not such a bad guy. But if you actually read the report from the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence from, I believe it was 2014 or around there, you're going to see a whole different Snowden. And that is what the Q drops showed us. See, what people don't understand, the Q drops are, among many purposes of it, was educational, to show you the past, the present, and what direction all of this was going in the future. Not in the form of predictions, but showing you where the road is going to.
Right.
I mean, they went as far back as showing us what went really down in the Titanic, right?
Right. Exactly.
So
that's why when you always say it's a research board, it's for researchers. And that's what I've gotten out of it is, if you just start to put together the dots and then go back in history and find the information, then you're like, wait a minute, what? And then the Fed, and then this happened, and that happened. And it's all the same people. How is it all the same people? The invisible enemy.
Right.
But again, that whole thing with Snowden, what you just brought up, you and I both spent time in Hollywood and in that world. And that's another thing that also tipped me off that something was very wrong was they don't make movies about people like that aren't meant to manipulate minds and mind control people into thinking a certain way for a certain reason. The CIA has a lot of power in Hollywood. People still don't get it. They always have from the beginning. And that's what I saw there. Now, another thing that's going on that nobody wants to talk about, but you apparently, is that it's organized crime, mob stuff going on all over the country. It was last summer during the riots and Antifa. Right now, it is again, and it's terrifying. And but like you always say, that's Obama's army. And people can't put together that it's the same people, it's the community organizer, weather underground, like it's the same thing. And I wanted you to explain that because people are seeing this and they're not getting that it's organized. I think that people are saying, oh God, look, all our cities are crazy. No, they removed the police, they removed bail, they removed on purpose. Obama told us he was going to create a different kind of police force that would be his. I mean, basically, and then he set up his foundation. Then he's training all these people. 30,000 soldiers he had working during voting. So can you explain how all these mob incidents relate to Obama's army?
Yeah, well, I mean, for sure, Obama had the idea. I mean, they didn't hide it.
Nope.
That they wanted to train young Americans, and most of them were Black, if not all of them. And he obviously, during his administration, was when the whole race thing got all fired up.
Right.
They were training everyone at the school level with the critical race theory and changing how academia works. So it starts right there. And I think the fact that he put out these statements about how we needed a civilian army,
right?
The idea was to create a parallel force different from the U.S. military, which takes an oath to the Constitution. Can't have that. Armies running around that take an oath to the Constitution. So I think that was the main goal there. But then it goes back to, whole thing with Michael Brown and hands up, don't shoot. We saw literally the creation during the Obama years of bringing back segregation, bringing back hatred and racism, and getting these young kids fired up. And we saw a lot of, Kamala's known for this. They were releasing these prisoners, softening the prison sentences, softening all these rules. And that's what's happening now. Now we're seeing the end result of it. Of course, they created Black Lives Matter during those years.
Right.
And, some people, I mean, I've seen videos, the early Black Lives Matter organizations meeting, they didn't even know what the meetings were about. But, there's a video, I encourage people to look it up on YouTube, where this Black Lives Matter organizer, he calls out this infiltration of Black Lives Matter. They created it first, and then they radicalized it.
Right.
They didn't just create it as a radical organization from the beginning. They created it. Look, we care about blacks. Oh, now that you guys are here, look at this injustice. So
right.
That is how they did it. And then there's the whole connection with Obama and the Muslim Brotherhood. You cannot not see it.
Right.
Another purpose, we were told in the Q drops that nobody was paying attention. This goes back again to the question with Snowden. And we had Michelle Bachmann, right? I believe it was in 20.
Oh, right. It warned everyone. They made her look like a conspiracy theorist. I remember.
And this is another thing that the Q drops highlighted. Many important things that were happening right in front of our faces, all pointing to this radicalization of blacks and the importing of Muslim Brotherhood. This whole thing, of course, same guy that created ISIS. But I mean, let's just stay focused. And
I think it was McCain that went after Michelle Bachmann for daring to say such a thing, that the Muslim Brotherhood was infiltrating, and that they were after Sharpton, the Muslim Brotherhood made the most visits to Obama's White House. And still people are completely, and the sad part, Bernie, is I think most good people in America, when they voted for Obama, thought, we finally achieved it. We finally achieved equality. There's going to be a black man as president. I'm talking white, black, Asian, Indian, whatever you were. I think most people felt a sense of pride, like America has really come so far. And then bam, it was like the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that they took advantage from the beginning, hope and change. And one of the first things I noticed about Obama was, I think it was first week he was president. I mean, you'd have to look it up. I mean, I think the first thing he did, people would have to look it up, but he actually wrote an executive order to give himself lifetime Secret Service protection. That I found that interesting, and believe it or not, that's when I turned against him.
Was that before he went to all the Muslim nations and apologized?
Right from the beginning. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, this is what we were told, that there was an infiltration that took place in our government at a mass scale, not invasion. And I think this is that, and the Snowden, this whole Muslim Brotherhood connection was the very first thing that jumped out at me. And I've urged my audience, I've been saying it for years, if you read the Q drops and try to ask yourself, okay, let's see who are the main enemies right out of the gate. They're warning us and showing us Muslim Brotherhood from the beginning.
Right.
And without understanding that, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, people don't even realize that Brennan converted to Islam. I believe Strzok, Page, Uma Abedin, Jarrett,
all of them
had
Muslim.
Loyalty to Iran, the regime in Iran, not the people that are captured and held hostage and by that regime, but to the regime itself. And people just never, I mean, people still don't know any of this. It is amazing to me. And it is all played out. And then we have what just happened in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. So they bring all these unvetted people into our country. Apparently, Airbnb is giving them all free housing. I don't know if the people that work with Airbnb are aware, but on top of that, they all come to the rescue and they're putting them at our bases. And they're bringing their child brides. And people, it's completely left the news. This is a big deal.
And the question that, I'm going to say it right here. The question people should be asking yourself is, how did they miss this? If somebody's watching saying, wait a minute, why haven't I heard this before? How can you possibly recognize the role of the Muslim Brotherhood, what is happening, when all of your focus was put by the alternative media on Zionism, which is their main enemy? It's like 1 + 1 = 2.
Right.
You
Right.
cannot
And
serve two masters.
yeah, you're a big defender of that, the rabid anti-Semitism. And it's funny, people call me an anti-Semite sometimes when I say things about Soros, who I think is the most evil person on the planet. And I say, what? No, I'm judging him by his behavior and his actions and his thousands of NGOs that have infiltrated countries all over the world for their one world government. And what's going on in Ukraine right now is a Soros operation falling apart, in my opinion. But again, we're at a place where people are scared to tell the truth. And like you said the other day, and I like when you say this, because I do see all the people that kept their YouTube channels and censored themselves. And I talked about it with you. What people should know is that when I was having a very hard time and being attacked, I reached out to Bernie and he got right back to me and really talked to me and walked me through, like, listen, you got to focus on what you're, on this and not on that. And you got to look at this and that. And it really, really helped me keep going. But again, we're at a place where the information warfare and the disinformation and people flipping and you don't know what's going on. And I think it's really important that people stay focused on, the fact that there's an infiltration even on the side of what people think are the truth tellers and the honest people. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you talk a lot about the alternative media, disinformation, what's going on. But I think you have a really clear picture because, when you say be discerning about who you're watching, I get it. And like you said the other day, I started out not wanting to do this. I actually started out trying to talk about what was going on, what I saw that was satanic when I was leaving Hollywood and with a lot of bad stuff that I saw with kids. And then it just evolved. But over time, I've sorted through this, but I think a lot of people right now are very confused. There's a lot of bizarre infighting it's distraction. And I wanted your take on the evolution of this alternative media / truth community and all of that, and what people should be actually seeking out.
Well, again, I think when I started covering the Q drops back in 2017, I remember one of the first things I said after reading the first. And I encourage everyone to read over and over and over again. The first, I believe, is 200 to 300 drops. The drops covering from late October to the end of December of 2017. That 3-month period or whatever, 2.5 months. Everyone should study that. And one of the things that jumped out at me was that I realized that all of this, I realized the nature of, like we were saying, what they were pointing to as to what the bad guys are. And I realized that without logic and reason, you're not going to figure this out. So I realized, okay, I'm going to step back and see what everyone else has been saying up to now and what's the difference here? Why am I bringing all this up? Because now we're going to fast forward to today. And now we have this information war. And this is another thing that really jumped out at me in this war, this information that we were being given on the drops, and that allowed me to start sorting things out. So that's a big deal. So early on, to kind of pick up where you left, the question, I told myself early on, you cannot approach any of this unless you know or have a solid foundation of knowledge about who the bad guys are, who is the main enemy.
Right.
If you don't know if you go out in the field, if you ask a soldier, you give them all their gear and they don't know who's the enemy, you are useless.
Right.
So that really is at the heart and soul of this long answer that I'm giving you. Who is the enemy? Who is undermined America? Who is destroying who's brainwashing our kids? Who's doing all this? So what has happened, and we're seeing it a lot on the left, and we're seeing it on the side of the alternative media, is people want to attribute people's actions, their beliefs, their value system, and everything that they're doing, they want to attribute it to a skin color or a certain culture or a certain group of people, a certain creed. It doesn't work that way. When the demons that are flying around helping Satan out, they don't care what culture you are.
Right.
Now, if a certain group of people happen to have more money than others and they have an opportunity to play a key role, that's irrelevant. That's called irrelevant facts. There's a lot of truth out there. I'm only sharing with my audience.
Right.
There is a lot of truth out there, but there is only, like you said earlier, I only talk about certain stories every day because what? Not every story, not every truth is relevant. Right. So people should know the difference between truth and relevant truth. Two different things.
Yeah.
Anything could be true, but
Right.
is it relevant?
Right.
And when people understand that, then we can answer these questions about the craziness that's happening now, right?
Right.
Because there are people that are upset. There's a lot of infighting, and people are fighting about irrelevant things.
I know. That's why it's like, I'll just watch Bernie and find out which of these things don't matter. Don't matter. You won't even address it. I won't either. But I will say this: you are absolutely, you're very positive and optimistic about what is going on and where we're headed. That's one thing that overshadows to me your entire show. Is it's always about, at the end of the day, you're very confident. You believe in America. You believe in that God wins this battle, and that we are way ahead. Most people that, and I encourage everyone to watch Bernie. I watch him every night, and I always end up feeling like, oh, it's not as bad as it seems. But I have to say, you've remained very optimistic and positive. Can you tell me a little bit why that is?
Sure. Everything that I put out, everything that I believe is based on logic and reason. See, emotionally, yeah, being positive is good for emotion as well. That's a good thing. But it is not my goal to illogically or just emotionally be positive, because you could tell yourself that everything's doing great. But if you cannot explain it logically, you're just fooling yourself. So if I cannot explain to the audience every single day why I'm positive, logically why I'm positive, then it's no use. So let me logically explain to you, right? I mean, right now, as I've been saying lately on my shows, if you look at what is happening, I'm always telling people, believe your eyes, look at open your eyes. Without getting into the whole thing with negativity and pessimism, right? That's a whole nother animal of itself, right? People that are negative,
right?
Some people being negative is their happiness. Think about it.
True.
But we're not going to get into that now.
Right.
But that's a big problem, by the way. People love being negative. But again, but to go back to your question, logically speaking, nothing that has happened ever since, we could easily just pick the 11-3 steal. Nothing that the media, whether it's the right-wing media, left-wing media, or the alternative media that hates the Q crowd, nothing that they are saying has any logic and reason whatsoever. And what I do is try to show people. Right now, for example, Mel, where do we begin? We have the terror attack in Waukesha, Wisconsin, that nobody wants to talk about.
Right.
We have the Jussie Smollett trial that nobody wants to talk about.
Right.
We have the Ghislaine Maxwell, right? That's everyone's most insane. That's the one, right? This one's fun and sensational. We can't talk about that either.
No.
We have hostages in Afghanistan. Can't talk about that. How about the Durham indictments? Can't talk about that. And the fact that people are resigning left and right.
Right.
Politicians and now media figures are given goodbye. How about the laptop from hell that is that is the Christmas present for everyone. Exactly. A laptop from hell is releasing nuclear bombs today alone, Mel. So that's just a short list. I can keep going.
No, I know.
But we can't talk about that because that's a lot. That would make Bernie at Truth and Art TV have a strong argument that a lot of amazing things can't have that because they've already banned my YouTube channel and Twitter and everywhere else that I used to be.
Yeah.
So now they don't have to worry about me pointing to
it's a badge of honor because all it's saying is that you scare them the most. That's what it's saying to me.
It's obvious to people. I tell which is another conversation, right? The people that have been banned versus the people that have not been banned. But Mel, we all know getting rid of channels like mine and getting rid of you and anybody else who wants to speak the truth, that's not quite enough. We're going to have to get on the phone with Fauci, who's on the phone with the next variant, right? Fauci is talking to the variant. And like today, just perfectly, the variant was on, flight number XXX, right? And Fauci's been on the phone with the variant, and the variant is here today. So we don't have to talk about these things that we're talking about.
Right. But of course, 2 weeks ago, they were all curious why there was no COVID in Africa. And now they've banned 8 places in Africa. And you're thinking, what? And that's what you say a lot, in which I agree. These people are panicked. They were panicked the minute Trump won. And but right now, all I'm seeing, and this is great, and this is why everyone should watch you, is you pick out the stories that show you that they're panicking. Because this variant, the whole story is bogus. It is so bogus. And right now, if you go to any of the real mainstream media, I call them, they believe me, I believe that they should all be tried on crimes against humanity for what they did the last 2 years to the elderly and the sheeple. But, you look at it right now, everything's the variant. It's just such a fraud. I can't even believe that people are buying it. But I'll tell you what, you're from New York City originally. People in New York City, the intellectual elite, the Woody Allen characters, they buy it. They are in. It's crazy. But what do you make of that?
And it's just another way. Another story I didn't mention is the controlled demolition of Fauci the fraud. Fauci, now he can take a break for a couple of days. This is his only way of getting the attention off of him.
Right.
Because as I said last night, Fauci decided to make his main argument this idea that I know it all. That's his main argument.
It's the opposite of science, but he's science. So wait,
he is science. So now he gets to say, I told you I was science. The variant, which by definition is no big deal because the main virus had a 99% survivability, checkmate, logical thinking. But now he gets to say, I told you my friend Omicron is here and Omicron is going to do the talking. I don't have to take the heat for a couple of days.
Right.
Of course, they know that this thing is going to wear out in a couple of days, which is the reason why in the next few days they're going to double down and triple down on their fear mongering, which is based on literally nonsense and illogical thinking.
Right. Well, Bernie, I think that if people don't follow you already, they certainly should start today. Can you tell people where they can find you? Because you're pretty good at spreading it out. And you do a lot of live streams, which keeps everyone in the loop in real time.
Thank you very much, Mel. Well, people can visit truthnrtv.com. You can check me out on Gab also and Getter, which I'm not a fan of either one of those, but you can check me out there. And it's all under Truth and Art TV. I have, on the website, you can see all the links and people can be aware that, I go live 5 days a week and, I'm out there in some other platforms. Check it all out.
Yeah.
And that's really it.
Well, thank you so much, Bernie. Let me tell you something. It is the pleasure of my day every day, because not only do you deliver the facts and the truth and the logic and the reason with an optimistic spin, but you are absolutely hilarious. And it's a pleasure. I watch you. The last thing I don't watch much, but I watch you every night, and it really keeps me pumped up and looking forward to what's next in this crazy battle for humanity. So thank you for being such a great soldier on the front lines. And I will continue to be your biggest fan. And please, everyone, his Truth and Art TV members channel is filled with stuff that is really as good as it gets in terms of putting together history.